Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 31st day of July, 2019. Well, third time's the charm, isn't it? I've done this 3 times now. The first one, I don't know what happened. I sort of got lost in a train of thought, and I thought, wait a minute, I don't know where I'm going with this. So I just stopped and I started over. And this next time, or this last time before this one, I saw a little light on my mute button. I don't know how that light came on. Obviously I did it, but I don't know when I did it or what have you. So I thought, well, okay. So no matter how much I have the volume up, it isn't happening. So I initially drew the Seven of Wands. So that's what I started the reading out with. So we'll just keep that one in mind and we'll see if I draw it again. Well, if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. You know, it does, sometimes things just, you just never know with these little things we do here. You just never know. Things may go very, 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 very easily, very quickly, very smoothly. Other times I drop cards and I just don't even know. So anyway, but thank you so much for stopping by anyway. I hope you click subscribe and come back and join our Tarot and Rune family where we explore how all of this can affect our lives and enhance our lives and maybe have us think about things or consider things in a way maybe we haven't before. So not really about predictions, more about how things influence. So not really going to hear a whole lot of that here. So the whole notion of tarot reader as fortune teller, I'm just not into that. So anyhow, if you've come back, thank you. It's nice to see everyone. I really appreciate people coming and leaving comments and asking questions and all of that. So, the whole point of this is to explore this. And if someone's got another interpretation or if this hits them a little bit differently and they want to share that, go ahead. We'd love to hear it. It's always nice to get other people's perspectives on tarot and runes and other divination methods because we all see this, the way we do, and so whereas we might all, be able to see, oh yeah, I see that means that. There may be something though about your life experience that takes you just totally see it some other way, and it could be so profound that it could unlock things for people. So don't be afraid. This is not carved in stone. This stuff is just my interpretation. Okay, there could be a gazillion others, and likely are. So feel free to suggest something else. If in your experience this means something else to you. So all is welcome. So anyhow, let's get started and take our first card for today. See, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. I take the 13th card each time for this because I do want it to be random instead of just laying out the cards. Here we have the Ace of Swords, so new thinking. Swords is our intellect, it's the air element. Again, a familiar theme in tarot is a hand reaching out with something in it from a cloud. Maybe in this case it's a sword. But we see the crown up there and the garland on the very on the very tip of the sword. The sword is pointing towards spirit. And the crown itself indicates loftiness. So right away, what we're looking at is the beginnings of new thought, maybe new reason, maybe a judgment in your favor, if it's a legal situation. It always reminds me of integrity, the Ace of Swords. The aces are considered to have, or thought to contain all of the energies of the entire suit within that initial genesis. I mean, today is, today, given it's the new moon, given that it's on a Wednesday, that's a mercurial influence, aligns with the air element. Mercury does, both the god and the planet. So I'm thinking that this is really, really, really aligns with the new moon today. So this could indicate the type of focus if you're going to sit and meditate tonight, or if you're going to work some magic involving maybe communication with others, maybe interactions with others, maybe need a little bit of shoring up, or maybe need a new direction. Now that Mercury retrograde has left its influence, is not messing with everybody anymore. This might be the time to sort of take stock of maybe where interactions have been going for you with others, and maybe try to set a new course with that sort of thing. If you've been experiencing some conflict with others, or if maybe relationships have been challenged of late, it's a difficult time right now, isn't it? And Mercury does this sort of thing 4 times a year, so I think so. It's like, well, here we go again. and if it's not, the other stuff that we're having to cope with, the divisions and the isms of life that seem to be so prevalent, how the powers that be try to keep us at odds with one another. So this could indicate with the Ace of Swords, this is just a time to establish some new interaction with people, maybe. Even if it's just how you behave with others, today is a 4 energy. So we're talking structure and foundation, aren't we? Let's do another card. And really, aligning it with the numerology of today, I think makes sense, along with the new moon and all of that. It truly is the energy to build on something new here. Oh, well, we have the 9 of Cups. Fulfillment, emotional fulfillment. He's jolly, isn't he? Very happy. His arms are crossed, but not in a defensive posture. It's like, well, look what I have, Look what I've done. Look what I have to offer all of you. He's very proud of himself, isn't he? He's very happy, very content. There's nothing manipulative with this card. It's about, we have new beginnings with the Ace of Swords, and we have completion with the 9 of Cups. And so whatever, we're going to put that over to the side here. I don't think it's the next card. Let's do another card and see if we can find out what actually goes in between there, because I suspect that there's something along the way. We have the Ace of Swords, which is new ideas, which can bring anything, right? It's the possibility of, that's really what this card means to me, is it's the possibility of anything. When you have an ace, and particularly with swords, you've got ideas and ingenuity and all kinds of things that you can then manifest. And obviously, whatever we've done here with the Ace of Swords promises some emotional fulfillment. Let's do another card. Well, we have the Queen of Cups, which, I don't know, maybe we need to draw a 4th card here. We've had, well, with the patriarchy that we're still experiencing, I hate to call this male energy, but I'm going to, okay? It's really masculine, but it's not necessarily a guy. I mean, anyone can possess masculine energy. You don't have to be a man to have that, okay? All that means is it's Mars energy, it's passionate energy, it's projective energy versus receptive energy of the female, okay? We all know women can be just as, projective as a man can be, just as assertive and aggressive and all of that. So as you see, these are not gender related, but just for the sake of argument, that's what I'm going to say here. We've had male energy, okay, projective energy that's run amok with patriarchy, where men control women, all right? The receptive presence was not strong enough, evidently, to overshadow because they did it by use of fear and punishment and abuse and all of these things. And so, of course, what are you going to do? You're going to know your place, aren't you? If only to save yourself, right? To keep some kind of control over your life. So you give in to the whims of these other people who decide they want to control everything. Well, now we have the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups, she's holding a beautiful ornate chalice. She sits by the water's edge. Cups is about our emotions. It's the water element. You see some cherubs above. She's full of love and grace and compassion. Now, of course, if she's a little ill-dignified, then she can be, a little manipulative and all of that. But typically when you're talking about a queen, you're talking about a female person who's older, who's in authority. But the way she chooses to express her authority is through compassion and love and understanding. Whereas the King of Cups might do it with a little bit of passive aggression. I'm going to manipulate my way into control. I'm going to manipulate my way into power. But you see, we know with the Nine of Cups that didn't happen. We know that we have some emotional fulfillment when all is said and done after the new ideas and new experiences promised by the Ace of Swords. So what is the message of the Queen then? The message of the Queen is that or I should say, contained within the new experience, contained within the new ideas, is compassion for others. And when we do that, if we express that, in fact, I'm not going to take another card. If we express that, then we come out with the emotional fulfillment found in the Nine of Cups. What we've been seeing a trend with the cards the last, couple of months, few months, really. Last year was an 11 year, and so it was all about illumination and enlightenment, right? Using our intuition to kind of cut through the crap of things, all the BS that's going on, all the lying that's going on, all the deception, so that people can fleece the country, basically. I mean, because there has to be a profit motive to this. Otherwise, why do this? Why upend the country this way? You know that there's just a chosen few that are going to get rich off of all this, while the rest of us sit there and wonder what the heck happened to our country, But with that masculine or projective energy, if this were the King of Cups, then you could see how that would not lend us or would not get us in the direction of the Nine of Cups. That would be risky. But here, we're suggesting another type of energy, a more receptive presence versus a projective presence that will then listen to the needs of others instead of defining that, okay, yes, we're going to take funding away from Meals on Wheels. We talked about this yesterday, and because that's an expression of compassion, taking school lunch programs away from what is it, 500,000 kids? That's compassion. Oh yeah, right. That's compassion. Putting kids and separating children from the courts told them they couldn't do this, and now they've separated another 1,000, almost 1,000 kids from their parents at the border after the courts told them they couldn't do that anymore. They did it anyway. Again, we have the Ace of Swords, which is new ideas, new experience, new reason, valor, victory. But that takes the presence of the Queen and a receptive presence, the Queen of Cups, with compassion and understanding, to be able to see the big picture, to understand the effect of our behavior on other people, especially when it's harmful. That's the Queen of Cups. And when all that comes to pass, you see, then we have emotional fulfillment with the Nine of Cups. I pulled Degas, which means new day on the new moon. 23rd rune of the Elder Futhark. Some put and I vacillated back and forth, putting this at the end as the 24th and Othala as the 23rd. Eventually, I just put it back, and Othala is the last one, and New Day. Degas is the 23rd. It denotes change as a 5 energy. If it were the 24th, then it would denote higher self-influences as the 6th. I'm going to here, though. Oh, here, I bought a new pad of white paper so you can actually see what I'm doing here. I'm going to draw out Degas. And I'm going to show you because Degas, some runes are very simple. There's no compound aspect to them. Like Isa, it's a single line, so nothing else going on. But here is Degas. And this is comprised of other runes, all right? In the center, we see an X, which is Gebo, balanced energy exchange with others. But with that, you see, with the X, you see Kenaz, forward and reversed, which means the torch or light, the light of spirit, both shining inward and outward. Okay, so you're kind of getting an idea, balanced energy exchange, the light of spirit expressed outward and within. But here we add Isa on the end to terminate. Alignment in spirit, the stillness within. Isa is a Norn rune, and it indicates the present moment. The Norns were the women that, the goddesses, the women, the witches that gave Odin the runes when he hung upside down, you know, from the world tree to gain enlightenment and all that, lost an eye, all sacrificed an eye. But you can see also Lagus is contained within it, which is flow. I'll show you that too. See down there at the bottom, there's also flow. It would be this part here. You see? One of the interpretations that I found in my research on runes over the years was the idea of energy reaching its saturation point becomes its opposite. And you can almost see that flow with Degas. You can see that, can't you? Where energy comes to the still point and becomes its opposite. I think that we've reached that point collectively in our collective unified presence here on this planet, where the energy of projection, the energy that has caused patriarchy to take hold, the oppression to take hold, the lack of goddess presence to take hold, all of that has to now change and become its opposite, which means we move from the kingly presence to the queen. We move from aggression to compassion. You see the difference, right? And when we do that, then we come to the completion, the 9, don't we? Emotional satisfaction. If we go and we look here at the numerology of the cards, there's not one for the queen, although it could be a 4 if we were to think of it as card 13. So again, structure and foundation, but if we eliminate that from the numerology, we have 9 and 1 is 10, so a 1, so again, new beginnings. Again, aligning with today's energy of the new moon. Fascinating. That's just fascinating, isn't it? You know, I just love that when that happens. When it all just sort of comes together like this and aligns with the day and the whole and what's going on, especially if we have a new moon and all of that. The energies are just totally in alignment today, aren't they? It's almost like the pivot. It's like today we are the pivot point between the two sides of Degas. Let's do a geomancy rune now. I'm gonna, if you go back, well, if you look at this next month's geomancy reading, you'll see over there on the blog when I put it up what it's all about. So give you a couple days and check back over there at imsteppingaside.com and look for that. I'll tell you when I do this. If it's up by tomorrow, then I'll let you know in tomorrow's reading whether or not, you know, what I came up with. But in any event, geomancy can be done a variety of ways. It's an earth divination tool. It's a very old divination tool. it can have to do with ley lines and pendulums and things like that. That's what we're going to do is I'm going to throw down four runes, and on one side is a single dot, on the other side there are two dots. Each one corresponds with an element, and we're going to put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. So there's going to be four lines on this, like with the I Ching guas or hexagrams, there's 6 lines. This will have essentially 4 lines, if you will, and it'll either be comprised by a single dot or a double dot. Let's go ahead and see what we have here. So we have a single dot for fire, single for air, dual for water, and single for earth. Now, what that looks like, I'll go ahead and draw it out. I could just rifle through my runes here. I went ahead and I would burn some geomancy runes so I could just use them for purposes in the blog, you know. And I was drawing these things out, and I thought, well, heck, I can just show you that. But actually, I think this is better. So we have an active influence for fire. We have an active influence for air. We have a passive influence for water, and an active influence for earth. Now remember, fire is about our will, air is about our intellect, water is our emotions, and earth is the rest. It's the physical manifestation of our lives. So what we have then on the water aspect of this, on the emotional side, is the passive influence, which suggests fickle energy. Now, maybe a little impulse control. This is poor, which basically that's the name of the geomancy glyph or rune or symbol. Is poor, P-U-E-R. And poor describes a young boy. So you see right there, impulse control issues, right? What little boy doesn't have impulse control issues? I raised 2 boys. Trust me, they have impulse control issues. It doesn't end. I'm married to a man. It doesn't end. So, I mean, anyway, it's just a little mom moment. Sorry about that. Anyway, but poor is it's got some energy to it, you know, it's got some focus to it, but sometimes that focus may get a little carried away, you know, and have a little lack of impulse control. So I think that although it can provide a little bit of impetus for change, and so perhaps the impetus behind a gauze. Or it could indicate that, you know, the underlying transition here is one from a lack of impulse control to one that maybe has a little more impulse control. So this could actually indicate what we're transitioning from. Just maybe a little reminder. Sometimes I look at the geomancy runes as a bit of an outlier, you know, as just something that, okay, just as a reminder though, you know, don't forget this. And I think that that's really what this is about. I think that it's impulse control issues that got us where we are. It was about, because let's face it, power exerts an influence. You know, it is a Leo energy right now. The moon is in Leo. And so emotionally, we might have a little bit of problem with dealing with how we assert ourselves. Maybe we might hold back when we shouldn't. Maybe we might be a little fearful when we shouldn't be. But at the same time, it might be warning us that maybe we're not prepared to assert ourselves. So maybe a little more allowing is necessary. Maybe a little more observation is necessary before we leap into something. So yeah. Well, I don't think I need to draw another card. I think we're fine there. But again, watch for the geomancy reading on the blog so you get a little more idea of what that looks like. What I ultimately do is I throw the geomancy runes, the 4 runes, 4 times, and I'll show you what I end up creating. I end up creating a shield chart. And it's read from right to left, which makes it odd on both levels. And then what I do, because it really, the shield chart lends itself to weekly, you know, information. You know, here's week 1, here's week 2, here's week 3, and here's week 4. And then down here, you have the right witness or the right and left witnesses, and then the judge, which is the outcome. So basically, what you're only doing with this, though, is you're only throwing, I have to do this backwards, these 4. And then from there, each line will create, you know, the top line creates the next one, the second line creates the next one, the third line creates the next one, and the fourth line creates this one. And from there, these 2 combine to create this one, these 2 to this one, these 2 to this one, these 2 to this one, and so forth. So, I mean, a lot of it is just, you know, a lot of combination work. You're really only throwing 4 runes and creating 4 runes. From there, everything else is made off of those 4 runes. So anyhow, check for that. And I just think it's a really interesting divination method. Every bit as interesting as regular runes, and I use the Elder Futhark in what I do. There's other Futharks you can use as well. There's the Icelandic one. There's the Younger. There's the Anglo-Saxon. There's just various different runic scripts out there that people use for divination. So it's not just a language. There's the Ogham script. There's all kinds of things you can do. So anyhow, it's just fun to look at and see how it can apply to our lives, and maybe, you know, have us consider something else. You know, we tend to get stuck in our own mindset, and we don't ever, you know, step outside that comfort zone to maybe explore something new. You know, it's like the first time my mother ate broccoli. I steamed it for her, and okay, you know, it was from the garden, and I mean, there weren't any worms, there weren't any cabbage worms on it, you know, but of course I teased her and suggested that there might be, but she'd had a couple bites before that, you know, and decided she really liked broccoli. So she bought a steamer basket and she started having steamed broccoli, and she loved it. But you know, this woman, I swear to God, she must have been was she in her 50s maybe when she finally learned to like broccoli? And it was just a matter of steaming it, putting some butter on it, and enjoying it. And she was thrilled, you know. But it was all those years my mother would not step outside her comfort zone and do anything like that, you know. And so I finally just brought some from the garden one day and said, here, try this, you know, and I'll fix it for you. And you know, I said, I'm doing the veggies. And she's looking at me like, oh no, I'm not eating that. I said, just trust me. We have salad. It'll work. Trust me. It was fine. It takes us time, though, doesn't it, sometimes, to just do something simple. That's all I'm suggesting. Anyhow, new beginnings on a new moon. Eat your broccoli. Anyhow, I actually have broccoli right now out in my garden. I've been harvesting little spears, and it's just been the most incredible thing. And then I've planted more broccoli for the fall garden so that it'll come up and be nice and sweet when the frost touches it. So it's one of those wonderful plants that you definitely want to be kissed by the frost. I do my carrots that way, and they are so sweet. They're like sugar. So it does. It's just the frost increases the sugar content of this stuff. So I highly recommend that if you've not ever done a fall garden overhead, do one. In fact, what I do for my carrots is I wait till my garlic is done. And when my garlic's done, the beginning of July or end of June or whatever, sometime within the first couple of weeks of July, I plant my carrots, and they're up and they're doing great. I just planted fall peas, and they're coming up and they're doing great. So if you haven't ever done that, do it. It's very cool. I know it's tempting to be exhausted at the end when you've harvested this and that, and you've done your tomatoes and you've done this and that. But if you don't have to do the carrots until after that, isn't that a blessing? Because I don't know about you, I'm tired of chopping by that time. So you get this little window, right? True, you're not finished, but at the same time, the bounty is incredible. So consider that as well as when you're thinking about something new today to bring into your life. Fall gardening. Awesome. Anyhow, We'll see you tomorrow. Click subscribe if you haven't done that yet. I'd love you to do that and come back and share this time with us. I do this 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and then I take the weekend to just, hang out with my husband. So anyhow, have a wonderful day. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.